In a world growing ever more dominated by cell phone photography, there's one camera that I believe will help turn the tides. So back when I originally found out about photography, that was like 2017 or 2018-ish. I borrowed my sister's Nikon D5100, the one I'm using to film right now. It was supposed to be the camera used for their photo booth business. Then, as soon as they got busy with their real jobs, their primary source of income, the photo booth was handed down to me. And that included the D5100. It was my first DSLR, and I absolutely loved it. At the time, it was a religious experience shooting with it for the first time. I was learning more about photography and have grown to appreciate it more than just watching YouTube videos. But when I got hands on this flimsy old camera, digital camera, which was primarily used for family trips, vacation, or certain events, I pretty much stopped using my DSLR completely. So this camera forces you to slow down a little bit, not as a design choice, but more so as a kind of side effect due to the fact that this camera is kind of sluggish and the fact that it's 5 years old. Those detriments slowing you down and the lack of a viewfinder saves you from the anxiety of taking a photo in the first place, because one, you don't have any settings or the liberty because it's pretty much baked in. Two, it's also very compact and portable. Three, if for my case, it has a broken screen. At the time, I thought it was dumb to move over coming from a DSLR, which was like relatively faster, responsive. But then I would go and I would just love using this thing because it helped me slow down a little bit and it felt more like I was using a film camera, and I felt way more creative using this camera just because it was interesting, vintage, retro, and very fun to use, and I wanted to bring it everywhere. It was so light that I didn't even notice that it was in my pocket most of the time. That's something that couldn't be said about my DSLR. And the image quality even today is still fantastic. Despite it only having like 7.1 megapixels, this camera was kind of decent at image quality when it first came out. And even now, it's like still a fantastic performer. I mean, it's not going to beat the next or latest and greatest Canon, Nikon, a Sony, a Fuji. Heck, even your phone can do better than this. But I think for its purpose, right, you're not gonna use this for your next Spider-Man film. It does its job perfectly well, like documenting memories, capturing moments, or even freezing moments in time. That has so much value for an average photographer. Despite all this, it still has its cons, right? LCD is broken, it's not usable. You have to do a lot of guesswork. But I think this camera is able to encourage me and maybe encourage you to not overthink on the hardware. This camera encourages you to not overthink of the hardware or the gear. It helps you focus on making the shot or storytelling. So, I think for 2,000 pesos, this is a perfect entry-level digital camera. that will give you such a unique experience that you couldn't get for that kind of price new. It's just a great camera overall. If you're only using, let's say, a cell phone and you really want to make that jump to a camera, but you don't want to spend like a lot of money, I think this Canon Digital ISO 75 or even any cheap secondhand camera would suit you perfectly. That's kind of who I would recommend this camera to, and it would really get you thinking creatively. And although it has its shortcomings like the LCD, the screen, the battery, it's definitely different in this age of cell phones. It will make you think differently and take your photography more seriously because you can take it anywhere. And I think it will help step up your photography game by inspiring you to go out and shoot, which is really the point of it all, because you'll always want to use it and it's not going to be a burden. Unlike my DSLR, I take this camera everywhere and I wouldn't do that with this big chunk of a DSLR. It's just too annoying. Chase Jarvis once said, the best camera is the one that you have with you. And I think it helps alter your mind in a small way. I mean, that's what you need to be creative. You need to see the world in a different light, in a different lens, in a different camera. And I think that this camera specifically is the perfect way to do that.